When you see the whole world shaking and you feel your heart is breaking, take my hand, no hesitating. When you're just so tired of trying, all alone you feel like hiding. Together we'll keep fighting. There's no stopping us. Hold on, we're gonna make it. We're gonna make it. Don't stop now. Hold on, we're gonna make it. We're gonna mountains too high we can climb it. Feel this, we'll take in the moment. There's no stopping us. Hold on, we're gonna make it. We're gonna make it. Can you see the sun is shining like a new hope? Feel it rising, coming over the horizon. There's no stopping us. Hold on, we're gonna make it. We're gonna make it. Don't stop now. Hold on, we're gonna make it. We're gonna mountains too high we can climb it. Feel this, we'll take it in the moment. There's no stopping us. Hold on, we're gonna make it. We're gonna make it. Don't you give up, don't you give up on me. Don't you give up, don't you give up now. Don't you give up, don't you give up on me. Don't you give up, don't you give up now. Don't you give up, don't you give up on me. Don't you give up, don't you give up now. Don't you give up, don't you give up on me. Don't you give up, don't you give up now. There's no stopping.
Happy 4th of July weekend. I think I got to make this video for about 14 seconds. And then, going a little bit longer than I had thought. Okay. Well, it's the 4th of July weekend. It's July 2nd. I'm actually pre-recording this. It's not 7 p.m., but the weather's been great. It's a beautiful day today. It was a beautiful day yesterday. And I hope you are enjoying it with family and friends and barbecues and beaches and pools. But still watch my video, okay? I'm Chris Gargiulo, an associate broker for eXp Realty, and this is my podcast, Real Estate with Mr. G. And we're going to talk today about a down payment assistance program that I'm already getting responses on. Basically, I coincide my podcast with my newsletter, and 9 out of 10 times what I have in my newsletter we discuss in the podcast. So I already got people asking me, what about these programs? What about these programs? So we'll talk about that, and let's do our little prelude first to get right into the business. Isn't that a great intro? Really, I really like that intro. It took me a while to put together. Yeah, thank you very much. I'm still trying to get used to these special effects that comes with the program. I don't know. Let me try it again. I just okay. There we go. Now I got it. Yeah. Thank you. You really do like it. All right, that's enough. Okay, that's enough. All right. I apologize. For doing that. I'm sorry if I upset my audience. Okay. All right. I'm getting a better hang of it now. All right. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. That actually goes on for a while too. Okay. So, by the way, I'm seeing more listings going on the market. I'm working on a few myself. So I think with the ease of the pandemic, people are putting more homes on the market. I think also too, this may be a reason, it may not. I think we're out of the big multiple offer market, where one house within 4 days had like 12 offers. I believe we're getting out of it. I think it's only lasting with homes, and I've stated this before in earlier podcasts, that are turnkey ready. The only thing you have to do is turn that key and you move in. You don't have to paint. You don't have to steam rugs or whatever. It's ready to move in. And that may still have multiple offers, but I believe there is less competition out in the market. I'm feeling that. I'm experiencing that with my clients, and I'm also seeing that with reports from other agents, with articles that I'm reading that are real estate related. So I think this is good news for buyers. I know that mortgage rates have gone up, and that's not a happy thing. They're still historically low. If that makes you feel a little bit better. But everything, we were really, let's say, really pampered with those extremely low interest rates. And to be honest with you, with my podcast, with my recommendations to clients for the last maybe 5 or 6 years, I said they're going to go up. And they did not. And they only have gone up now, okay, within like the last 6 months. So we were really blessed for a long time with low interest rates. Now they're getting into the middle ground, okay? But you have to take into account everything else. I mean, if you are making more money, hopefully you have an increase in pay, and other things could work out as well, because now where it's not so much a seller's market, I don't want to say it's not a seller's market, but not as much, you may get them to pay your closing cost. So everything kind of balances out, okay? So, and then when you look at the more interest that you're paying with a high mortgage interest rate, you could recoup some of that back, perhaps, because I'm not a tax consultant. But when you do your taxes, you would have to speak individually to your own tax preparer. All right. So there's always some sort of balance there. Yes, it was great when interest rates were under 3%, but they're not anymore, and they won't be, I predict, for a really long time, unless we have a really big problem with the economy and the recession. But no one is really seeing that. I think we're going to avoid the big recession. I don't think it's going to be as bad. as previous ones. But keep the recession separate from the real estate market and prices, because I really believe that some home prices were definitely overinflated, and that we may see some prices coming down, not straight across the board. But again, I really believe some markets were truly overinflated. The best thing about it is that the appraisers stood by appraising the house for the right price, the market value. And so if you bid higher than the asking price, 20, 30, 40,000, you had to bring that to the table. Back in 2007, 2008, many of the appraisers were coming in too high. And then when people had the higher mortgage payment and the economy went bad and they were underwater, that led to other problems. We don't have that situation right now, but I still think in the long run, paying a lot more for an item than what it is worth is never a good thing. All right, so let's get into the subject matter. Let me get my nice little PDF file up here. Okay. So what I posted this week and what I put in my newsletter, home assistance could be in reach with down payment assistance programs. And right away, somebody responded to my newsletter and said, where I get my money? Where am I getting my money? Well, it's not like you just go and they write you out a check, all right? There are many great things about this program. No, let me put it this way. In these programs in general, I can't speak in terms of how it's, all the banks have different programs. They have different grants, okay? All right. And a lot of times it's based upon income. Now, the ones that my buyers did in the past where they got grants, it was pretty liberal in the sense of how much money you can make. In other words, if you were a single individual buying a house, it's not like you just were able to buy or have an income of $20,000. I got a house for a young man I guess it's going on about 8 to 10 years ago. And he used a grant program, and he was making about $38,000. Now, 10 years ago, in the Hampton Roads area for a single person, that was pretty good money. Okay? But he was able to get the grant. So the grants are based upon your income, but you could still have a middle income. All right, you could still make a good amount of money to maybe be considered, if we still have a middle income class, that you could use these grants. So it's not like, how can I say, you were dirt poor. I mean, you could make a good income, and you could get a down payment assistance program. All right, if this young man was making $60,000 a year, then he wouldn't be eligible for it. Okay, he was making, like I said, 37 or 38,000, and he got the grant. And what happens to a lot with these grants, it's based upon how many people will be occupying the house. So if you have a spouse, all right, and it may not, and it could be, or I'm trying to explain this in the most benign way. Okay, you don't have to have a married spouse. I don't think so. Okay, you have to speak to your loan officer that go by who's actually going to be occupying the house. So if you have a partner, that will then increase the amount of income that you can make. So now the combined income, well, it would go by the one applicant. So now that person, if he had a spouse or a significant other, perhaps they could make then $45,000 a year. And then if they have children, then it goes up. All right. So the amount of people actually occupying the house will increase the amount of income that you can make. Again, you would have to speak individually with your loan officer. All right, because things change. There's certain stipulations, and you would have to get that information right at that moment. I'm just letting you know that this is out there. All right. Now, let me get closer to my graph here. Okay, let's move this down a little bit. So a recent survey from Bankrate asked prospective buyers to identify the biggest obstacle in their home buying journey. It found that 36% of these polled said saving down for a down payment is one of their primary hurdles into buying a home. So if you feel that way, we have, or your banks will have, down payment assistance programs available to reach your home ownership goals. So here are some things. So you can qualify even if you purchase a home before. Now, a lot of these programs are geared to first-time home buyers, right? Because they want to give young people, and it doesn't necessarily have to be young people. If people think young people in their early 20s, whatever, you could be in your 30s. Okay. But you could be a repeat buyer. But the way it works, you usually, if you had a home, but if you sold it, okay, and again, the standard is 3 years. So if you have not owned that home for who hasn't owned a primary residence in 3 years, all right, you are actually then considered a first-time home buyer or new home buyer, okay? And if you're a single parent who's only ever owned a home with a former spouse, you would be eligible for a lot of these programs. That means no matter where you are in your home ownership journey, there could be an option available for you. So again, definitely for first-time home buyers, then for someone who hasn't owned a primary residence in the last 3 years, and a single parent who's only ever owned a home with a former spouse. Now, there are other type of home loans that are based upon your profession, all right? In addition to broader options available for repeat and first-time home buyers, there are other down payment assistance programs that could qualify for based on your location. According to the National Association of Realtors, many local governments and nonprofit organizations offer down payment assistance grants and loans targeted to area borrowers and often with specific borrower requirements. All right, so they're actually bringing them both here. There are some banks, for instance, if you are a city worker, like a teacher, all right, a medical professional, okay, also falls under that. If you're police, fire, man or woman, or fire people, there are loans. In the past, I've seen that. Again, I have to update with some of my loan officers if they still have those. All right, and definitely for veterans, okay. A couple of years ago, there was one that was at least 10,000. The ones I worked with in the past range from 5,000 to 7,500, then up to 10,000 for veterans. So including teachers, doctors, and nurses, veterans. Again, one I worked with dealt with both police and firemen men and women. And then here, well, just to read this last line here. Ultimately, that means that there are many federal, state, and local programs available for you to explore. The best way to do so is connect with a local real estate professional and your lender to learn more about what's available in your area. There's also one that's it's called a USDA loan, and that's for if you're purchasing in an area that is mostly rural. Okay, I'm going to spell rural because I don't roll my R's that well, but RURAL. And the reason why they give grants to potential home buyers in those areas because they want it to be more developed. They want more people out there because what happens once people go out there, the wheels of capitalism start, and this is a good thing. Businesses will go out there, all right, and malls will be built, parks will be built, hospitals will be built. So you have the whole wheels of commerce going into motion, both on the private sector and on the governmental sector. So it helps build up an area. So they entice people to move out there. For instance, when we first came down to Hampton, it's going now 15 years living here full time. The Isle of Wight was very, very quiet. You would go over the James River Bridge, and there would be just country, very few shops and restaurants. But now you go over the James River Bridge from Hampton, well, actually Newport News, and there are shopping malls, there are hospital centers, much more restaurants, much more condos that were built going on in that area. So it's completely different. And in fact, I don't even think you could get a USDA grant there anymore. I mean, there's parts where Isle of Wight then becomes very rural again, and you might be eligible for a USD grant then. And it might be USVDA. I have to double check. But it has to be a pretty, country-like area. And the ones who would know, because I don't even want to touch that. Again, my purpose is to let you know what's out there, but your loan officer is the one who will have to say, okay, that address, I could get you this grant, and they'll be the last person, the final, where the buck stops, saying, I could get you that grant. All right. So again, these grants are for building up areas economically. Okay, they want more people out there. They want more businesses out there. They want it to become more developed. So they give you these grants. And the other thing that I want to talk about, because again, this is a Virginia program, VHDA, that's separate from a grant they have. This is for first-time home buyers, so that if you don't have the money for a down payment, they will finance it. They're not giving it to you; they're financing it. Usually, if you're buying a house with to make it simple, a Fannie Mae loan, you got to put down 3%. The house is $100,000. You got to put down $3,000. But with these first-time home buyer programs in Virginia, okay, you have to go state by state to see if they have it. They will finance that amount, okay? And if your credit is really, really good, if you have to pay closing costs, if you can't get the seller to pay your closing costs, you could get that financed as well, all right? So you have VHDA, you have USDA, you have grant assistance programs, all right? And who could clarify it best for you is your mortgage loan officer. If you come to me to buy a house, I will make recommendations to what loan officers are working with what programs, and they will fine-tune it and say, yes, you could use this grant to buy out in Surrey, okay, for instance. All right. It's a rural area and they want to build up, you could use this grant. All right. And they could determine again if you are eligible for money for first-time home buyers, if there's any grants out there for that, if you work for the city, if there are grants out there for that, and they could then let you know for sure. Okay? All right. So with that in mind, I have a little video, because it's 4th of July weekend, and we want to know why. Well, let's talk about home ownership is truly part of the American dream. Oh, I'm getting a little feedback here. Okay. Also, on my blog, Real Estate with Mr. G .blog, I have the new, just came out about 2 weeks ago, the summer edition 2022, things to consider when you're buying a home. Okay. That's free download. I'm not charging you. Okay. And we have it for buyers and we have it for selling your house. But this doesn't mean that you do it on your own. That means that gives you the background, and then you pick up the phone, you text, or you email me, and you say, Mr. G, I'm ready to buy. Mr. G, I'm ready to sell. Okay? And let's see here. Let me move this here. And where do you go for this wonderful thing I'm showing you? You go to Real Estate with Mr. G .blog. And if you want to type in everything from the beginning to end, it's resource-materials. But you could just go to my blog and click on the tab, resource materials, and you have it there for a download. Okay? Isn't that nice? Okay. So let me get rid of that. And let me get rid of this here. Okay. And here I'm back. Okay. So I think out in the audience we have another celebrity again that I think they stopped by before, maybe about a few months ago, but they're back. So William, can you tell us a little bit about that? William, my producer.
Chris, great news. We have a celebrity in the audience. He is an American film director, producer, and screenwriter. He is the recipient of many accolades, including 9 Academy Award nominations for Best Director, 4 British Academy Film Awards, 3 Golden Globe Awards, and 2 Directors Guild of America Awards. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Martin Scorsese.
Well, it was really nice seeing him in the audience. Thank you, Mr. Scorsese. I don't want to say Martin because I really respect you, but thanks for stopping by. So that's our podcast for this week. Enjoy the rest of your holiday weekend. Be safe. Leave the fireworks to the professionals, okay? And enjoy. Hope you're with family and friends. And remember, the greatest power we have is to love, and the greatest gift, each other. See you next week.